Hello, welcome to Walsall United WFC.
Good afternoon and welcome to the weekly wrap-up with me, Gareth Townsend. Today, looking a little bit different. Had some prior commitments this weekend, so it's meant that I'm going to be coming to you on my own this afternoon. But we've got plenty to talk about, so we will jump right in and we'll have a look at the two teams of the week that we always have a look at. Remember, the first one is the official Barclays FA Women's Super League Team of the Week, which is usually picked by a pundit. This week, it's Sue Smith choosing that. So we'll look through that. And we'll have a look at the FA WSL Full-Time Team of the Week as well. Remember the difference between these two. The WSL Full-Time one is kind of chosen by a group of people and also contains championship players. So let's jump in. Let's have a look at the Sue Smith's Team of the Week for the official Barclays FA Women's Super League. In goal, Kirsty Lavelle of Leicester City. A back four of Hannah Blondell from Manchester United, Quinn from Birmingham City, Abby McManus also of Leicester City, Katie McCabe also filling in at left back there. A midfield three of Jessie Fleming from Chelsea, Rachel Rowe from Reading, and Frida Marnham, whose goal we will no doubt cover shortly. And then a front three of Lauren Hemp of Manchester City, and then another Reading double of Dowie and Rose. For me, from what I've seen, I've not been able to catch any highlights of the Birmingham City game, but I know that Quinn was able to get the goal, the important goal to kind of equalise in that game. So, you know, I'm sure that that's probably why Sue Smith has considered her there. I think the Leicester pairing of Lavelle and McManus absolutely deserve to be in that squad. And we'll discuss kind of a bit later on when we get onto the Chelsea game, just why I think that Hannah Blondell had a good game against Manchester City. You know, kept that flank of Manchester City relatively quiet. You know, I think everything went through Lauren Hemp, who Ona Badje had to try and keep quiet, and Katie McCabe, you know, wherever she gets put on the pitch, she, you know, at the moment is playing pretty well. That midfield, obviously, Rachel Rowe playing well in the Reading side, just about getting their first victory. Fleming, you know, finally kind of being given a chance for Chelsea. You know, they're going to need quite a lot of squad rotation at the moment, you know, with Champions League games coming midweek and with their WSL games at the weekend. Emma Hayes is making the most of the depth in that Chelsea squad, and Jessie Fleming, you know, just off a gold medal and scoring a penalty in the final, finds herself in Team of the Week here. Frida Marnham for Arsenal. This was her best game for me, I think, in an Arsenal shirt, and scored an absolute screamer at the end to seal that win over Everton. And again, that midfield, that front three, rather, Lauren Hemp is, for me, one of the best players in the WSL. I think, you know, she's probably a player that you know, I know we are a Manchester United channel and that's kind of the focus, but I would have Lauren Hemp in our squad in a heartbeat. For me, like I say, I think she's one of the top players in the division, and you know, those of us that are Lionesses fans, very, very lucky to have a player of Hemp's quality pulling on that England shirt. And Dowie and Rose round up the Team of the Week. Reading getting their first win of the season and stopping that winning streak of Tottenham Hotspurs. So we'll move on now and look at the FA WSL Full-Time Team of the Week. In goal, again, Kirsty Lavelle. I think, it's the second week in a row. She's had an absolutely storming weekend. So again, absolutely deserves to be in that squad. Katie McCabe also features at the back in this one, along with Ashley Plumpter at centre half, who again, along with Abby McManus, had a fantastic game in that game against Chelsea, which we will get onto shortly. Rounded out the back four then with Williams from Brighton and Wardlaw from Liverpool. Both sides having good games. With the midfield then of Dalton from Lewis, Lambert from Durham, and Rachel Rowe again appearing for Reading. And the front three of Eichland for Reading, Lauren Hemp again for Manchester City, and their player of the weekend was Emma Follis for Charlton Athletic. Obviously good, there's a good chunk of Championship players there, 4 of them making the cut. It was good to see those being given the recognition that they absolutely deserve. And, Liverpool had a good weekend. Lewis as well, were able to pick up valuable points. We saw this weekend Durham picking up the win over Sunderland, and so kind of it demonstrates why Lambert's in that side. Lewis with an important win over Blackburn Rovers to get their season up and running. Charlton with a big win. Obviously, Follis getting both of those, hence her player of the match. And Liverpool on Saturday with a big result as well. But we'll get onto those sort of later on in the show. But they're the teams of the week. So let's move on. Let's start going through the WSL games from the weekend. We'll start on Saturday. Now, I know last night there was a match reaction show. So for kind of a long form discussion on this game, do go and check out last night's show. For me, this was a crazy game. For me, the red card from Georgia Stanway was an opportunity for us to go out and get a win. It was a fragmented Manchester City squad. They are a squad that's full of injuries. So it was obviously disappointing after going up a player, playing 11 versus 10, to then concede what I felt at the time was quite a soft goal for us to allow Bunny Shaw to score. But to be fair to her, she's taller than Manny and she's stronger than Manny, and she got herself in that position to take that goal. As disappointing as it was for us, I think at half time I'd have taken a draw. But for us to come out and for us to show enough to win the game in that second half, which I think we definitely did, bringing Lucy Staniforth on kind of changed the midfield for me. We had just that bit more bite, that bit more kind of drive and desire in midfield. And we got the goal, from a short corner, kind of crossed in from Tooney and flicked in by Lucy Staniforth for that first goal for United. And that kind of gave us some hope that we could go and we could get a win here. And then for Alessia Russo's first goal of the game, well, her only goal of the game, when she got that ball in that box, everything seemed to go into slow motion. I thought she'd lost it when she almost tripped over it. I thought that she was kind of falling down and she was going to take it, and it wasn't quite going to be enough, and it might be a comfortable save, but it slipped in that bottom corner, and the roof came off Lee Sports Village. There's the GIF on Twitter going around of the celebrations in reverse. But, you can see kind of how much it meant to United fans. That was obviously my first time this season. I missed the home game against Reading and the Chelsea game. By the time we scored, the game had kind of gone away from us, really. So it was the first time we kind of taken the lead that when I'd been at Lee all season. So, for the roof to come off, it was great. It meant so much. And, I thought, against City, it means so much more as well. I thought we were going to get the win. And the goal we conceded as well, players could potentially have done better for it. But, what I want to do instead of kind of discussing that is give Mary the credit that I think she deserves. Excuse me. Yeah, to give Mary the credit that she deserves, because she pulled off a fantastic save initially from GS Park, I think. And then the rebounded save just happened to fall at the feet of anybody else in the world. You don't want that to fall. You'd rather it fall to, but it falls to Ellen White, who made absolutely no mistake from about 3-4 yards and got the equaliser. And I think that's why it felt like a loss. It felt like 2 points dropped. And I think it felt like 2 points dropped for me primarily because we did enough in that last sort of 20-30 minutes to win the game. We'd got ourselves in front, and I felt like we were good enough to hold that out, to hold on and see out the win. But it wasn't to be, and City kind of got a point. You do wonder now, though, is that point going to kickstart City's campaign? It come the end of this international break. It's the best part of 3 weeks now before we have any home games, before we have any more or domestic games. Is that going to kickstart Manchester City's season? Are they going to get some players back after this international break? Is Alana Kennedy going to be sort of feeling fitter and ready to go? Is Hayley Rasso going to come back into this squad? What's the condition of Ellie Roebuck looking like? If they can start to add these players in, Steph Horton's not on crutches anymore. So if they can start to add these players back in, then they're getting stronger. And I do wonder if they'll be able to kickstart their season from here. I think we need to do the same as well. I think if we're looking at 10 points off the first 4 games, which is a good start. We played City, we played Chelsea. I think that is a good start. I think obviously disappointing given that that we could have perhaps done more. So we'll see kind of where things go from there. But we'll be looking Everton and Spurs away as the first 2 league games back. Spurs away, then Everton afterwards. And we'll definitely be looking to go and get 6 points there, and that kind of puts us in a strong position then moving forward. But both these sides will really be looking forward to kicking on and really trying to get that season into overdrive. So that was the Saturday game. We move on to Sunday. The early kickoff came from Kingsmeadow, where Chelsea ran out 2-0 winners against Leicester City. Now, you could look at this score and you could think, oh, well, it's the champions doing what the champions do. But if I say that Harder's goal came after 83 minutes and Kirby's in the 4th minute of stoppage time at the end of the 90, I think it shows kind of what a monumental display this was from Leicester as well defensively. There's definite positives to be taken from this game by Leicester. They worked really hard at the back. They looked pretty defensively solid. If you look at the quality that Chelsea have, they brought Harder on at half-time, brought Sam Kerr on at half-time. They were able to bring on players like Gura Wrighton, Erin Cuthbert as well, and kind of really, really change the game with them. I think Fran Kirby, despite getting the goal, had a few opportunities earlier on in the game that she didn't take. But I think the reason for this is a simple one. It's the Leicester defence. Kirsty Lavelle, again, 2nd week in a row, having an absolutely standout performance in goal. Her 2 centre-halves as well, Abby McManus and Ashley Plumpter, both having genuinely fantastic games. And I feel like there's a lot that Jonathan Morgan will be able to take from this, and will be able to kind of work on, reset, rejuvenate. I think they're pretty much his words over this international break, and then they can look really to kind of drive it on and really go for it then afterwards. It's a tough run of games for them. If we look at the Leicester women fixtures, they start off after the international break with a Everton will go to the Pirelli Stadium in the Conti Cup, but their run-off games in the league, they obviously kick off with Man City again at the start of November, and then they go Brighton, Everton, Arsenal, Birmingham. So there's a run of games there, obviously Conti Cup games in between against Durham United and City. But there's games there where they can really start picking up points between now and the winter break. I think is a really good opportunity for them to pick up points, and they'll be able to take that confidence from the Chelsea game, from being able to hold out the second best side in Europe for such a long time. There's absolutely going to be positives that they're able to take from that game, and positives they should take from that game, because I think offensively they were really solid. They would like to be, I think, a bit more clinical in attack, be able to kind of create those opportunities for themselves. But against Chelsea, they are a really strong side who are really defensively strong, and we couldn't really create anything against Chelsea either when we played them at home, let alone kind of down at Kingsmeadow. So, I think Chelsea are a strong squad. I think Leicester did really well to keep them at bay for 83 minutes. But it's about now where they go from there and where they build from there. We'll talk about the table later on, but it is really important that they do kick on and that they do progress and really go for it. And I think they will. They've got a lot of players come back from injury themselves. Sophie Barker obviously hasn't been fit for a while. Charlie Devlin not in the squad this weekend. New signings Abby Grant and Connie Schofield still not properly fully fit. So there are injuries, there are players missing. Players that when they come back into the squad will make the squad better. It's just about managing those recoveries properly, and I think as soon as they get some points on the board, things will really start to click for them. But having said that, Chelsea did what Chelsea do, and they are the champions, and they're champions for a reason, and it was real champions performance. Sometimes to win trophies, to win titles, you've got to go and you've got to just grind out a result where you're going wave after wave after wave after wave of attack. And I think that's kind of what Chelsea did. They just wore Leicester down in the end, and Harder was able to get an opportunity and could take it. But an interesting game. Fair play to Leicester. I think they showed real heart, real spirit. And I know there's still no points on the board, but this was a massive improvement compared to where some of the performances have been previously. I went to see them lose 6-0 against Manchester City in the league, and this was a completely different performance to that. So yeah, they can take a lot of strength, a lot of positives away from that, and really look to build on it over the international break. Next up, then, Brighton and Hove Albion put a dent in Spurs' lofty ambitions. I know I said that it was Reading earlier on that ended this winning streak. That's wrong. Forgive me. It's been an awfully long day when I'm recording this. So Lee gave Brighton the lead after 37 minutes before Williams was able to give them a 2-0 advantage after Rachel Williams was sent off for Spurs. Kit Graham able to get a goal for Spurs in the 88th minute, but it wasn't to be enough as Brighton run out on top in the at the People's Pension Stadium. This was a big game. Brighton had a good start to the season, were looking relatively strong, And Spurs had a good start to the season as well. Spurs were unbeaten and things were looking remarkably strong in that table for them. Spurs had won all 4 games. Brighton, had started strongly, winning their first 2 games, but had lost their previous 2. So it was an important one for them to try and get a point in. And they were able to. They were able to come out on top, and Spurs' winning streak has now finished. So the interesting thing is now what happens to these 2 teams. Are Brighton going to become a side where they win a couple, lose a couple, win a couple, lose a couple, ultimately end up in mid-table? Or can they be a side that's going to kick on and try and string something together where they can kind of look to aim not necessarily for the top 4, but 5th, 6th? I think that spot at the moment is very open. And very open between a number of sides, which, when we get to discussing the table shortly, that I will definitely go through there. I think, and as well, kind of where do Spurs go from here? They'd won their first 4 games of the season, and now they find themselves having faced a defeat already. So what happens now? Do they bounce back after the international break? Do they use these Conti Cup games as an opportunity to rest and go again? Or do they play their full strength squad and try and get some momentum back? So this next round of Conti Cup games, I know there's some later on this week. There's some in the first week after the international break as well, kind of the very first week of November. So it'd be interesting to see kind of how teams approach this. Do they really go for it with full strength squads to try and keep that momentum going? Or do they rest players? Do they kind of give other players a go? We'll see. Moving on then to the next game. Reading at home, looking for their first points of the season. In the first half, put 3 goals past Aston Villa. Villa were flying pretty high before last weekend when they played Chelsea. Arsenal, rather. Apologies. And they now, have lost 2 games on the bounce. I think they'll be disappointed to have lost against Reading. Reading were a strong side, but they lost a lot of quality over the summer. Me and Matt have mentioned this a lot. Angara James left. Farrell Williams retired. They lost Jess Fishlock in the midst of last season as well, who they had on loan. So that's a lot of experience that they've lost. And I didn't think they'd necessarily replaced it well, but they've come out. They started really strongly. Inside 20 minutes to go 2-0 up. You know that if you can do that, you have a very, very strong chance of winning. And then for Dowie to put that nail in the coffin just before half time meant that the second half was going to be really difficult for Villa to come back from. And I think we saw actually, that they couldn't come back from that, and Reading were able to get the win. In terms of kind of where that puts people now, obviously Reading getting their first win in the season, but Villa were kind of flying high, looking really strong after their 2 wins and a draw, unbeaten start to the season. Face Arsenal, get beaten relatively comfortably at home, and then to go and lose away to Reading, it's probably not where they wanted to be either. So it will be interesting again to see kind of how they handle these fixtures in the Conti Cup and what they do from there. Arsenal, with a few absolutely world-class goals, beat Everton 3-0. Katie McCabe's goal, not satisfied with scoring 1 screamer last weekend against Aston Villa from 40 yards. She proceeded to kind of take a touch and then strike the ball into the very top corner, past Sandy McKeever. I think there's an argument that could be made that maybe she should have done better. It did seem to go between her hands, but the ball could have been coming out of the sun. So we don't quite know if she was unsighted at all. I think she may well have been. But she'll probably have been disappointed to concede that, but take absolutely nothing away from Katie McCabe. It was one hell of a strike, and Lotte Robben-Moy then was able to take them into half time after 41 minutes, 2 goals to the good. And you get the idea then that it would be difficult for Everton to come back from this against an Arsenal side, which domestically, looking at the moment, unstoppable. And Freedom Arnham's absolutely world-class strike after 86 minutes just put the cherry on the icing of this cake. A genuinely wonderful performance from Arsenal. I've said it before and I'll say it again. For me, they're looking like title favourites already. It'll be interesting to see how they can keep going in the Champions League. Obviously, it was a disappointing loss to Barcelona away midweek, but they've responded in the best way possible. They've gone and put 3 points on the board in the WSL. And the final WSL game of the weekend then, sorry, tripping over words today. Final WSL game of the weekend was at the Chigwell Construction Stadium, where West Ham United drew 1-1 with Birmingham City. So Claudia Walker with a great goal to give West Ham United the lead, and then Quinn equalised for Birmingham. I've not been able to see any highlights of this game yet, as they're not currently on the FA Player, which is disappointing. I didn't have time to watch the full game, but I think Birmingham will be really pleased with that. I think West Ham will be disappointed with that. They would definitely have been looking to go into that game and get the win, but unfortunately for them, they weren't able to. Birmingham, like I say, will be really pleased to have got up and running, got a point on the board, drags them out of that relegation zone, and then can see if they can, rebuild and look to find something after the international break. So, excuse me, the table looks like this then. Top and on their own now on 15 points, having won all 5 games of the season, is Arsenal. Only conceded 2 goals, remember, both of those against Chelsea on the opening day of the season. Chelsea then second place on 12 points, having won every game since that defeat to Arsenal on the opening day. Almost like the inverse of Spurs, who are sat in third place on goal difference, having won their opening 4 and losing at the weekend. Manchester United bouncing back from that defeat to Chelsea with a win last weekend against Birmingham and a draw in the Manchester derby sees them 4th on 10 points. Brighton just behind those on 9, like we said, winning the first 2 games of the season, losing the next 2, and then getting that win over Spurs. West Ham just behind them on 6th, Brighton on 9 points, West Ham on 8. West Ham failed to defeat in the first game of the season, but have yet to taste defeat since, including that victory against Manchester City. 7th place is Aston Villa on 7 points. Like we said before, 2 defeats in a row. Kind of how do they look to bounce back from this? They've got a strong enough squad. Absolutely, they can be up there challenging for that 5th place. It's going to be about how they respond to this after the international break. Everton, they've had a difficult start to the season. They've played Manchester City, Chelsea, and Arsenal now, and they're the games really that they've lost. So they picked up wins elsewhere. That game against Leicester in the Conti Cup could be a real indicator of where they're going to go. If they lose to Leicester in the Conti Cup, then it could indicate a period of that it's going to be a bit of a difficult season for Everton. They'll be hoping to get a win and get their season back up and running after the break. Manchester City sit 9th, still having not tasted victory since the opening day of the season against Everton. But the draw against Manchester United this weekend could be the result that kickstarts their season. But all of us on this channel hoping that perhaps, hopefully not. Would be nice for us to finish above them this year, but we shall see. I think they have a lot of talent in that squad and should be able really to fight their way back into the top 3, I'm pretty sure. Reading get their first win of the season to move up to 10th, and Birmingham City, with their first point of the season, are up to 11th, which leaves Leicester the only side without a point in the division, but something they will definitely be looking forward to rectify in November. So going into the next international break then, if we just have a look at the statistics, things are pretty close. Obviously everyone's played 5 games. Sam Kerr is away on her own on 5 goals so far. Kim Little and Vivian Miedemar are on 4. Beth Mead, Fran Kirby, Katie McCabe and Pernille Harder are all on 3. And then Lee Russo and Bethany England all on 2 apiece. So looking close, one strong performance from somebody, and that can absolutely fire them into contention for that. If we look at assists as well, Fran Kirby on her own, 5 assists, 3 of those coming in the game last week. Ella Toone, picking up an assist this weekend, moves up to 2nd, clearly, now with 4 assists. Beth Mead, Katie McCabe, Hannah Blundell, all on 3. Then Lotta Wobben-Moy, Alex Greenwood, Izzy Christensen, Sam Kerr, and Vivian Miedemar, all on 2. We'll run through the results in the championship then. I said this is going to be a slightly shorter show. So we'll just run through the championship results and have a look at the table there. So on Saturday, Liverpool ran out 2-0 winners at Bramall Lane, which was a fantastic championship attendance, with obviously the game being held at Bramall Lane and there being over 4,000 fans there, which is fantastic to see. Liverpool coming out on top, not the result that Sheffield United would have been looking for, but a result that Liverpool can be proud of, with Wardlaw giving them the lead after 7 minutes and Kiernan after 36 sealing the deal. Sheffield United unable to come back from that in the second half. On to Sunday then, and Lewis against Blackburn, Hack scoring after 2 minutes for Lewis. And I say time and time again on this show that when you concede a goal as early as that, it really does make things difficult. The game plan is ripped up and you've got to try and claw something back from it. But Lewis, to their credit, did really well at home at the Dripping Pan, able to hold on and pick up 3 valuable points. Sunderland, after picking up their first defeat not long ago, picked up another one here, this time against Durham, who are looking really strong. Obviously, play United on Thursday night. We're looking forward to that. But it'll be interesting then to see where we go from there. Beth Heppel and Lambert getting the goals for Durham, the early pace setters in the division. But Charlton Athletic are hot on their heels, and Emma Follis's brace after 8 minutes and after 94 minutes gave them a 2-1 win over Bristol City. Looking like it's going to be a little bit of a tumultuous season for Bristol City in the Championship. But Charlton looking like they're the side that are likely to keep up with Durham as they continue to keep the pressure on. Obviously, there's that game in hand as well against Lewis from the start of the season that was postponed because of COVID. Coventry United, you may have seen some content from this game on this channel. Both John and Nat were there. Coventry United took the lead through Olivia Ferguson after 13 minutes. But on the stroke of half-time, Barton was able to equalise for Palace before Pearce gave them the lead shortly after half-time. Coventry responded pretty well, though. Ria Hardy scoring a great goal to equalise for them. But then Wilson was able to get the win for Crystal Palace, and they were able to hold on for the last 25 minutes to take home all 3 points and extend Coventry's pretty horrendous start to the season. Only worsened, but than Watford, as Watford, after taking the lead against London City, conceded late-ish goals, none in the 74th minute and Rochester in the 82nd, to give London City a 2-1 win over Watford at Prince's Park. Again, we'll just run through the table. Durham sit top on 15 points, having won 5 of their opening 6 games. Liverpool and London City Lionesses are second and third, having won 4, drawn 1, lost 1 apiece. It's Liverpool ahead at the moment on goal difference. Charlton Athletic sit 4th on 12 points. Remember, if they win that game in hand, they would move level on points with Durham, and at the moment have exactly the same goal difference, goals for, goals against. So having played a game less, that would put them in pole position for the championship at this early stage. Sheffield United then 5th on 10 points. Had a really good run, lost the first game of the season, 1-3 on the bounce, drew last week, a defeat this week. They'll be looking to get back to winning ways after the international break. Crystal Palace and Sunderland then are separated on goals scored, both on 8 points and a goal difference of 0 after winning 2, drawing 2, losing 2. Again, I think Sunderland will take a mid-table spot after this. And, I thought Palace would struggle this season, but they're looking pretty comfortable in mid-table at this point. Lewis and Bristol City are on 7 points. Remember, Lewis also have that game in hand. They need to play Charlton. But yes, 7 points each for those two sides. Blackburn Rovers in 10th then, having got their 2 wins of the season in the first and third games. Coventry are 11th, 1 point. Something isn't clicking over at Butts Park. I can't quite put my finger on what it is. Is it the large number of new signings that they brought in that just doesn't seem to be clicking and going right? But whatever it is, they're going to want to hope to get that sorted pretty soon. They don't want to find themselves being cast adrift from everybody else. And Watford currently having played 6 and lost 6. They'll be hoping that after the international break, they're able to pick up points pretty soon. And we'll just look at top goal scorers here. Beth Heppel, Lucy Watson lead the way with 4 goals apiece. We then have a lot of players on 3. Emma Follis, Ella Rutherford, Elise Hughes, all from Charlton on 3 goals. Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, Leanne Kiernan and Rihanna Jarrett also on 3. Follis actually has only played 3 games, 3 goals. Rutherford 4 games, 3 goals. Hughes 5 games, 3 goals. Sweetman-Kirk, Kiernan, Jarrett all 3 goals in 6 games. Rihanna Dean having got 2 in 3, and Umatong with 2 in 5 round out the rest of those top goal scorers. The National League had a break this weekend, and I believe that the website for the National League is down. It is still down, so I can't give you the results from the FA Women's National League Plate competition that took place this weekend. But do have a look out for those. Obviously, the National League league competitions will restart after next weekend as well. There's obviously FA Cup qualifying on the weekend of the 24th, and I think then it's Halloween when the league campaigns will restart for the National League. So keep an eye out for them. That brings us to the end of the show. Slightly shorter one this week, only about 40 minutes, but we're able to dissect the action from the Super League. Obviously, the international break is next weekend, so keep an eye out on our socials as to what the plans are with this show and with Anthony's odds show. Tune in this afternoon or later on this evening when Matt on his WFC show will be joined by myself Anthony and Ben as well. Nat's show tomorrow, I believe, and then I'm not entirely sure what's going to be happening on Thursday. I assume it's going to be match day content with the guys up in Durham. Look at the schedule on the YouTube and tune in later on, and I'm sure Matt will go through all of it. But for now, that's all from me. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next time.